Welcome to Heart of a Shepherd. We are continuing our study of the book of Joshua. Our chapter reading today, chapter 14 of Joshua. I've titled the devotion, Give Me This Mountain. I do invite you to open your Bible with me to Joshua 14. Well, you're going to notice in the first 5 verses the dividing of the land on the east side of the Jordan. Now, the tribes on the east side received their inheritance as Moses had promised. Reuben, Gad, the half-tribe of Manasseh in chapter 13 were noted. Now, Joshua then focused on assigning the other tribes their inheritance by lot, following the instructions in the book of Numbers, chapter 34, and then verses 2 to 12 and 16 through 29. And so Joshua is following the pattern, the promise that was made to the tribes back in the book of Numbers. Now we're reminded that Jacob adopted the sons of Joseph, that was Manasseh and Ephraim, as his sons in Genesis 48. Now, they were tribes of Israel in their own right, that is Manasseh and Ephraim. Now, the Lord had chosen them, the tribe of Levi, to serve as priests. So they're not now numbered among the 12. You might also remember that the tribe of Simeon is not going to be allotted their land as a result of a sin that was committed against their father. And therefore, then, we go back to the Levites. The Levites would receive no inheritance in the land except for cities and their suburbs. Suburbs means the lands around the cities. Now, these were given to them for their cattle and their substance, the substance of the Levites. So the Levites would not receive a portion of the land, but they would be allotted cities and suburbs. Now, in chapter 14, verse 6 through 12, we have what I would describe as Caleb's claim. Now, before the lots were cast and the lands were divided among the tribes, an inspirational event took place. Caleb, now that was Joshua's fellow spy and warrior when they first spied on the land all the way back in Numbers chapter 13 and 14. Caleb approached Joshua. Now, they were the only men 20 years and older to come out of Egypt and enter the promised land. Now, Caleb was accompanied by representatives from the tribe of Judah, and they came as his witnesses. Caleb then reminded Joshua that Moses had promised him an inheritance in Canaan. Now, he urged Joshua, saying, and I quote, "Thou knowest the thing that the Lord said unto Moses, the man of God, concerning me and thee in Kadesh Barnea." Verse 6. Now, Caleb was 40 years old when he explored the promised land and returned with a report confirming everything the Lord promised about Canaan. Nevertheless, the other spies in that time had discouraged the people. Now, we're looking back 40 years. Now, the other spies had discouraged the people with their faithless report, which was recorded in Deuteronomy chapter 1. However, Caleb had joined Joshua and was determined to trust the Lord. Well, tragically, the people believed the unfaithful spies 40 years earlier, and they refused to trust the Lord and enter Canaan. Now, for his faith and faithfulness, Moses had declared of Caleb, in Joshua 14, verse 9, it's recorded, but in Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 36, it was first recorded. So Moses had declared to Caleb, "Surely the land whereon thy feet have trodden shall be thine inheritance, and thy children's forever, because thou hast wholly followed the Lord my God." Well, 45 years passed, and although Caleb was an 85-year-old man, he was determined to claim his inheritance as the Lord promised. Now, remember, while Joshua was old and stricken in years, chapter 13 and verse 1, we find that Caleb's spirit remained determined, and we find that his strength was undiminished. Caleb actually testified in verse 11, "I am as strong this day as I was in the day that Moses sent me. As my strength was then, even so is my strength now for war, both to go out and to come in." Now, what an astonishing declaration. Caleb's passion, faith, and physical strength had not diminished. He was not ready to retire, retreat, or spend his days in a rocking chair. Instead, he was prepared to claim by faith what the Lord had promised him for his inheritance. And so Caleb asserted, "Give me this mountain, whereof the Lord spake in that day. For thou hast heard us in that day how the Anakims, who were giants, and by Egyptian record were 7 to 9 feet tall, the Anakims were there, and that the cities were great and fenced." In spite of the giants that he would face, Caleb was confident in the Lord and desired to claim his inheritance. What inspired Caleb? Why would an 85-year-old man seek that which others had feared and fled? Well, Caleb revealed the source of his passion and his faith in verse 12, saying, "If so be the Lord will be with me, then I shall be able to drive them out, as the Lord said." Well, with the fire of a warrior burning in his soul, Caleb was prepared to claim his inheritance and to go to war, knowing the Lord was with him. Well, how did Joshua respond to the faith of his old friend? In verse 13 we read, "Joshua blessed him and gave unto Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Hebron for an inheritance." Well, what a wonderful testimony. What a great challenge to some of us that might be older in years. May we keep God's fire, our spirit, burning within us to claim what God has promised. Well, thank you for being a part of Heart of a Shepherd. We will continue in our study tomorrow in Joshua chapter 15 and 16. God bless, and bye-bye.